So I'm Zach. I'm going to introduce myself first here. So I'm a developer and builder in town here. I bought my first real estate back in 2013 when I moved into Boise. I started studying real estate in 2006, and it took me 7 years to buy my first property, but I got started anyway. And then I went into real estate full-time 2016, started flipping houses, and then 2019 transitioned into land and development. Basically went through 2020 doing my very first development, and then have picked up a bunch since then and come full cycle on some. And then last year, so about this time last year, I hadn't bought anything for like a year and a half. The market was kind of stagnant and going down, and wasn't sure what was going on with it. So I just kind of was sitting on the sidelines, finishing up projects that I had, did a couple of custom builds. And then, at one point about this time last year, I started seeing good deals in land again. And so I kind of made the decision. I was in Las Vegas at a goal setting seminar in December of last year, and I made the decision that I was going to go out and buy 80 lots this year and get them in the build pipeline. So from January to May, I actually picked up between 35 and 38, depending on how it shakes out. But so I kind of, got halfway there basically before the half of the year. And then at that point I was like, oh, I need to get this stuff, rolling. So I didn't really buy anything after that until a couple months ago. I got a couple more, or another project under contract. And then I have actually a couple more things in the works potentially. So I think I'm going to actually hit my goal this year. So it's kind of exciting, but that's kind of where I'm at. And I'll let Andrew kind of explain what nice. You do.
Yeah, so Andrew Wheeler, grew up in Boise, went to Boise boy through and through, went to Boise High, then University of Idaho. I was up there 04 to 08, did my undergrad up there, and then 09 came down to Boise, their extended campus, and went to the IURDC, the Idaho Urban Research and Design Center, which in my sophomore year of architecture school, I figured out the developer hires the architect, and I've been on a mission to be both ever since. And so that's kind of how that started. And then the IURDC was really, architecture school and land planning combined. So it was in doing real projects. We were working with the city of Eagle and Meridian and, actually working with the planning staff. And so it was a great experience. Left grad school to be a millionaire real estate investor in 3 months, and Jeff Adams' $4,000 wholesaling course, failed miserably at it. But, failed in the sense, I wanted to party too much, 23, just didn't have the discipline to really, didn't know what I didn't know too, right? But it got me going, it got me thinking about that. Fast forward several years, I was actually trying to sell Jana internet marketing leads for realtor leads. That's how we first connected 15 years ago or something like that, or whenever it was. Had a digital marketing side business all the while. Got a job with a developer here locally that they were in-house construction, in-house asset management, and we were doing 20-unit projects to 200-unit projects, and probably did hundreds of projects and thousands of units, California, Washington, Idaho, and they're really all over. And always with the mission of going out on my own, being my own architect, developer of some sorts, investor. Got my real estate license because I thought you had to do that to wholesale. Turns out you really don't, but you kind of do. I don't know. It's still a gray area with some people, but at the end of the day, we're still a licensed realtor, but we do typically hire other realtors and try to keep the core focus on what we're doing on the land side. There's three aspects of our business, and that's architectural services, partnerships, and then we buy our own properties. So, and that's how we approach sellers. That's what we say. We say, hey, this is what we offer. What works for you. So I was in a 2-hour meeting this morning with a group that 8 heirs of a property that we're trying to put a partnership together. They're really slow conversations, right? There's a lot of drama going on there, and but I think there's something we can make happen there. So really, it's whatever bucket that those fall into. And that's what we're doing. So we primarily serve developers and investors because that's who we are and I am, and that's who I like to hang out with. And I look around and I see clients and friends and partners, and it's awesome to be a part of a group like this. And so, yeah, amazing work that John has done. Back in the day, at Bigger Pockets, going to the Cafe Olay meetups and all that. So and here we are today. And that's it. Yeah. So onward.
Yeah. So I guess before we go there. Let's just get a feel for who's in the room. So I guess I probably know about a quarter of you guys, but raise your hand if you're a realtor. Okay. How many new investors do we have, as in maybe you own between 0 and 3 properties and you're not doing real estate full time? Okay. And how many experienced like full-time into real estate, full-time, that's your full-time job? Okay, so it's about a third of each, it looks like. That's great. So Andrew and I, like when we met to plan this out, we're like, okay, we have a big mix of people that we're gonna be talking to. And so we want to like kind of make a presentation that's gonna be valuable to everybody, from the beginner all the way to the Chris Wolfords of the world that, or the Brian Underwoods of the world. Anyway, so infill development. So this is one thing that both of us specialize in. It's kind of great. So if you're not familiar with infill development, it's basically just the construction or redevelopment of land or buildings within an existing urban area, or just outside of city limits. Now, the easiest thing you can do is do a calculation on what can you do with land, right? So like that's the bare level thing that you can do when you're analyzing potential deals. And anybody can do this today. So the potential deals, so on the zoning code, so R1C, for example, is in Boise. That's like the most common zoning code you'll see in Boise. And I'll get into this a little bit later, but it's 12.4 units an acre. So if you take your 12.4 times the lot size, you get your total maximum units that you can put in there. So I don't know how many are familiar with the fact that Boise did a zoning code change in December. And basically, and I'll get into this again, but basically there's all kinds of opportunity out there. Like literally there's deals out there right now that you can go buy tomorrow. But basically you take the zoning code, so 12.4 units an acre times the size of the lot, and you get your maximum density or your maximum total units. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's like your base level. Like if you guys see something that looks like you could maybe put something on it, you do that quick math, and if you come to 2 or more, and there's only one house on there, chances are you might be able to do something with it. I'd say it's 25%, but at least you know if it's a no-go or not. The one thing to remember, I guess, when you're looking at R1C, if it's a 0.16 size lot or larger, that's up 2 units or more. So if it's smaller than that, you definitely can't do it. But 0.16 acres or more, you can definitely do 2, possibly. So then it's just a matter of like identifying your opportunity and exit strategy. So there's 10 different ways basically that you look at infill development on what you can do with it. One is land flipping, and we're gonna get into a little bit more detail on all this stuff. But lot split and sell, lot splitting and building, and renting or selling that. You can build an ADU on a lot of them. That's another thing we'll get into here in a minute. Converting an existing building into additional units, doing a minor land division, subdivision or planned unit development, building to rent development, building to sell development, or a combination of both of them. So where's the opportunity right now? So it's pretty much everywhere. There's opportunity all over the place to get into infill development. But I guess one of the things to look at is the first thing is pick an area that you want to focus on, right? Because you could just throw a dart on the wall and go anywhere. But really, like when it comes down to the nitty gritty, you want to really get to know your area that you want to work in. Like if you want to pick Boise, for example, so like my bread and butter is Boise and Garden City. Like I don't know that much about Caldwell. I've looked at deals in Caldwell. I just prefer Boise and Garden City, but you might prefer Caldwell, you might prefer Nampa, you might prefer Meridian. And so a good way to do this when you're first starting out is to pick one location and really like study what the zoning codes are. And there's going to be, a dozen different zoning codes, but really you're only going to really need to know 2 or 3 that you're going to see the most deals on. So really just learn what that zoning code means. And then get set up on a search. So if you're a realtor, you should know what you're looking for, but also if you guys are investors just starting out, get your realtor to set you up on a search and kind of get with them and get figured out on how to, what you want to look for. And if you don't have a realtor, like my team, like I'm actually training people to help with that. So I'm also a licensed realtor, but I don't really help people anymore. That sounds bad, but anyway, I have people on my team that can help you that are basically becoming experts on finding the deals that I buy. And then just start analyzing deals. And if you just want something handed to you also, like again, our team, like we have deals like once every couple weeks that we could literally just say, hey, do this deal, this is what you can do with it. every deal doesn't make sense for me, but I'm always like kicking myself, oh, if I only had more time or only had more resources, I could do this deal. So there's plenty of opportunity for all you guys to like do a deal tomorrow. Did I go too far? Where'd I go? Okay, so the modern zoning code with Boise. So what did it do? So basically, it means more density. There's just, basically everything, it created all kinds of opportunities. So you can go higher density, taller buildings, smaller lots, less parking. There's additional uses. ADUs, previously, and I complained about this for several years, like where as a builder, I couldn't actually build an ADU on a property and sell it because there was a deed restriction on it. So that deed restriction basically required that you live in one of the units, which made it make no sense for an investor unless you planned on living there forever. The other thing too is they required additional parking for ADUs. Well, both those requirements are now gone, so you can actually build an ADU on any lot that you can fit an ADU on and fit it in the setbacks. There's also affordability and green energy incentives. To be honest, the affordability incentives are make it affordable for everybody except for the developer. And then the green energy incentives, we're actually doing a building right now, and I'll actually get into this here in a second, that we're probably going this route on. And it basically just makes it easier to get your project approved. It's a little bit more expensive. There's more staff level reviews. So most projects anymore don't require the whole extensive process of going through planning and zoning, city hall, city council. So they shaved off some of that time and made the process easier and the procedures easier. So how can you create, so just for people that want to look for what you can do, so how can you create $100,000 in wealth in 12 months? So I'm going to show you an example of Michelle actually back in the corner. By the way, Michelle is super shy, but once you get to know her, she'll talk your ear off forever, but I'm going to embarrass her a little bit, so it's fun. So Michelle moved here a little over a year ago, and she was a travel nurse, so she decided she loved Boise. She wanted to stick around. And so when was this, like March or something, I think, she decided she wanted to look for a house here. And she was kind of nervous about buying a house because obviously like prices are high, interest rates are high. And so she was looking at, $350,000 houses. She was looking at some wholesale deals, but like everything that we looked at, we were like, okay, if she wants to move out and keep it as a rental, it's not going to cash flow. And so that was a challenge with a lot of them. And so like, she was like super nervous about buying a house. Well, within like 48 hours, like we basically started looking. So I don't remember exactly how this happened, but I started showing her houses that were more expensive and showing her like what we could do. And so like literally within 48 hours, she went from like not wanting to buy a $350,000 house to having two $600,000 houses under contract for $1.2 million in 48 hours. This is crazy. So the cool thing is both of them like were actually, so she actually intended to buy both of them. One of them was already set up as like a duplex, and it looked like it was going to cash flow or at least like break even. And then the other one was this house. The other duplex didn't actually work out because once we actually got all the financing stuff figured out, because she was buying two houses at one time, the other one was going to be more expensive than we thought, and so it wasn't going to cash flow. So she didn't end up buying it, but this is an awesome property. So this was on the market on the MLS. I had actually known of this property before it was on the MLS probably about 6 months or 7 months before. The guy that flipped it, like probably 7 months prior, had come to me and asked me if I was interested in this lot that he wanted to split off. And so he sent it over to me, and I was like, I'd be interested, what price? And he told me the price. I'm like, not interested. He was a little bit high on the price. But anyway, so like I never thought anything else of it. And 7 months later, it's on the market, and I'm like, wait, this looks familiar. And so he had flipped it. He did a great job on the flip. And anyway, so I looked at it, I'm like, oh, remember there was a lot split we can do on this. And so I kind of approached Michelle, and I was like, hey, this is a nice house, like it's turnkey, you can move in. You can actually do a little bit of a house hack, which is what she was kind of looking to do, is like basically lower her cost of living. And so Michelle's a veteran, so she qualified for a VA loan. It basically cost her $14,000 out of pocket to buy this. So she rents out 3 rooms that cover her mortgage, so she lives there for free. And we're taking advantage of the modern zoning code to build wealth and long-term cash flow. And just to show you guys how awesome this is, and like there's literally deals out there like today that you can do this on. So this is a lot. Let me see if I can point this out a little bit better. So right here, maybe.
See if this one will show you better. The invisible label. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, right. So right here, this is the house. Right here, when I originally analyzed this, so there's a garage right here, but there's 31 feet from the house to the fence line. Now this isn't exact, but like you can kind of do the overhead on the assessor's website and kind of get an idea. And then we have 43 feet over here. So by the zoning, so by the way, so this is 0.39 acres. If everybody wants to do the math on that in R1C, anybody want to do the math really quick? I already know the math, but anyway, it's 4 units is what we could potentially do. When I analyzed this, I was like, okay, how can we put 4 units on this? So I actually thought we could do like a little cottage village and add 3 cottages. When I brought that to the city during due diligence, they kind of nixed that and said it wasn't going to work. So then I was like, okay, well, we can still split off this lot and this lot because you can do a 25-foot wide lot here. So we got the survey done and everything. Turns out that that we could do the 25-foot wide lot, but it was 4.7 feet distance from the existing house to the new lot, and that doesn't meet the setback code. So we were like, oh shoot, we can't do that one lot.
Setback's 5 feet, right?
Yeah.
So by like inches.
Yeah. Yep. So this lot right here, basically, we knew we could do something with. Later on, we found out, actually, during due diligence, there's this spot right here. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a property line right here. So during our due diligence, we found this is an alley that's old. It's an abandoned alley, like nothing's there, except for the neighbor has their yard fenced in around it. So we went to the neighbor and we were like, can we move your fence? Neighbor is not too happy about that, actually. But it's, it's public property. ACHD is going to go, take back the lot. And so when we went to the city of Boise, they were like, oh yeah, you can do that. But you're going to have to pull parking off of the alley because there's an alley there. So basically they're going to require that we take over the alley, but then we'll be able to do parking back here. So with the new zoning code, so the old zoning code, you could do a single family house, you can maybe do a duplex, and maybe do an ADU if you're going to live there. So what we're doing, so this is the existing house, existing garage. So we're going to build an ADU back here behind the existing house. So that's this property. So she's going to build an ADU here. And then this property here, we figured out we could actually, theoretically, we could do up to a 4-plex plus an ADU. So we could basically theoretically do 5 units here, another unit here. And this house is actually set up where it has a basement, and literally for like $20,000, we can add a kitchen and another bathroom and make it a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 2-bedroom downstairs and a 2-bedroom, 1-bath upstairs. So we theoretically could have done 5, 6, 7, 8 units on that one lot off of one deal. What we ended up doing, because the feasibility of the 4-plex wasn't really there, so we're actually going to do a triplex here. ADU above the garage, another ADU here, and then we're still doing the duplex there. So that's going to be 7 units off of one. So that's kind of explaining that. But okay, so for basically $180,000, we're going to build the ADU, about another $20,000 for the basement. The total rents, if Michelle rents these long term, it's going to be $5,400 roughly. With a total payment at 5 3/4% of $5,000. So she'll create cash flow of $350 a month just based on long-term rents. However, by creating high-value short-term rentals, and I was glad Matt actually was here tonight, Michelle's actually going to rent out the new ADU as a short-term, and then probably do mid-term or short-term on the other units as well. And that looks like probably $8,500 a month in rents on the original property. So cash flowing like $3,500 a month. And the other thing too is, so putting 200,000 in, there's a recent comp that sold that had a house that was similar size and an ADU or detached that sold for 900,000. So she bought the house for 600, putting 200,000 into it, and then creating basically an extra $100,000 in value just by doing that, and cash flow. Now the triplex. So we're going to build a triplex with a basement unit and then basically a 2-story townhome style above on the main floor and second floor, and then a 2-bed, 2-bath ADU above the garage. Now through the process of speaking with the city on this, so we actually found out we actually have to detach the triplex from the garage because there's this weird code. Basically, if you have 4 units under the same roof, you have to get into the ADA requirements and you have to provide handicap parking. Not against that, it just takes up, you just have to add a bunch of extra space for parking that we don't have. And then one thing that we're doing on this, so her and I are partnering 50-50 on this project. I don't partner with a lot of people, but I do partner with the right people. And so Michelle's basically bringing in the land cost. Oh, by the way, she bought this house for $600,000 and we're gonna split off the lot. It's still worth $600,000 after lot split. Like it would comp out the same either way. So she basically is into the land for free. So she's going to bring that land cost at $0, and I'm building it at cost, and then we're going to share in the equity and cash flow at the tail end. So really, she basically created $300,000 in equity in her own pocket and monthly cash flow with almost no money out of pocket. $14,000 out of pocket. There's going to be some expenses to get stuff going, but overall, when we refinance, should be like almost all cash out of the deal. And that's really because the equity that she's bringing with the land and the equity I'm bringing with the building at cost. So it still cash flows with basically zero money down at 7% interest, conservatively $2,600 a year on the triplex. And then if we do a mix of short-term, mid-term, and long-term on the triplex, that's looking like $12,000 a year. And if we can get it into like the 6.25%, 6.5%, it cash flows even more. And basically the better the interest rates go, the better it looks. So this is a deal that basically anybody, like if you can go buy a house tomorrow, you can buy this kind of deal. And that's what's so exciting.
Awesome. No, that's great. So now we'll talk about navigating the entitlements and planning process. I mean, to do that, I mean, still it's easier in some instances, but it depends on the project and there's a lot of nuances to that. So if we look at this, it all starts with the feasibility study, right? What's the strategic plan? What's the goal? Are you trying to build and hold, build and rent? Are you trying to build and sell? You know, what's the plan of the development team at the end of the day? And then what's the current zoning of the project? What's the future zoning of the project? You know, and how does that dovetail in with your plan? Preliminary site planning, right? Let's test 5 different options, 8 different options. You know, if you do duplex attached, you know, on separate lots or duplex on one lot. There's a lot of different ways to look at that and, you know, playing with the geometry of the site requirements that you have, and then that'll kind of dictate what that application path is forward as far as if you have to ask for variances or if there's any, you know, the nuances of that, of what the city will tell you you have to do to get there. And that's the city coordination that you're doing in that feasibility study first phase. And then building design and concept design, so building massing. How do we have to step back on the 3rd floor? For example, I'm working on a project of a little podium infill on Pennsylvania. And if you're adjacent to attached housing, you don't have to step back the 3rd floor. Well, there's a detached single family and then everything else is attached. So the question is, do we have to step back the 3rd floor at just that lot? And the city's like, I don't know. So and there's all these little nuances, right, that kind of come into that. That's also, you have 5-foot setback if it's attached versus a 10-foot if it's not. Market research and rental comps, you know, so if it's a build and rent, what are the comps? You know, what are the costs per foot that you can expect to rent, being conservative and being aggressive, and testing those in a preliminary pro forma so you can get a good idea at a high level, you know, does this pencil, does it make sense? Bringing in a GC early on, you know, do a pre-construction agreement or work with Zach on how to, you know, hey, am I crazy with these costs per foot? Is this in the ballpark? We're just trying to get a high level picture, right? And to make a go, no go decision at this point. And this is in your due diligence. Hopefully your earnest money is refundable during this period. And you can decide, does this make sense or not? If it does, then the next phase is going that entitlement application package. So with that, you're going to assemble your team, your architect, your land planner, your civil engineer, your surveyor, and your landscape architect. Those are the core people you're going to need to put that package together. And then that's really refining that design, right? Okay, now we're going to detail out the plan a little bit more, test the market assumptions, run more pro formas. We're going to hold the neighborhood meeting, right? So, and on those, they can be very contentious. I've talked to a lot of people that, I've been in those too. And what I found, really at the end of the day, just listen and incorporate I've had good ideas come from people. Hey, you should do this. And I'm like, that's a great idea. We will do that. And then when it looks real good when you're in front of the city council and you're like, and we listened and we did that. And they love that. So, you're always building the sales pitch to the city from day one. So just keep that in mind. And 3D graphics, I've had clients that say, hey, I don't want to do 3D graphics because I don't want to pay for it. Okay, then you can sell the project because I don't want to get up there and set a 2D image and it's just, it creates more hurdles than it's worth at the end of the day. Visual graphics sell projects, and that's just the truth of the matter. Know your project inside and out. How many people have presented to city council or planning and zoning before? Has anybody here done that? Yeah, it's a grill session. They will ask you questions that you got to think on your feet. You got to know every little detail about your project, and it's an interesting experience to do that. So just make sure whoever you're using, if you're using us, great. We're pretty dialed on that. If you're using someone else, and make sure they know your project inside and out, and as well as the code. And then bring out objections early. Never split the difference. Accusation audit, right? Like bring it out up front, lay out what is wrong, how you're solving it, and give them a path forward. So you take the ammunition out of them and you tell them how you have a path forward to solve where there's a contentious issue, right? Looking at costs, costs are really hard to nail down, right? You got to look at a specific project. But as a percentage, these are just some rough percentages you can use as a guide. The bulk of your cost is going to be on the civil engineering side. So 50% between civil and survey is really where, but those are critical. You need to get a survey, you need a good civil engineer. About a quarter of that, 30% architecture to land planning, and then you have your geotech, environmental reports, 5%, and city fees, I'd count for 5% there, and landscape architecture as well. So I'm going to kind of blow through these slides because I have a lot of slides, and these are just showing some examples of projects that we've done, and just to give you kind of an idea, and some we'll dive into more detail on. This is a mixed-use community, which just shows, we have single family in the upper left, detached, attached single family in kind of the tighter area there in the mid-left, dense apartments, and then we have office on the east and commercial on the south. So a project like this is pretty complicated to bring together and make that site plan work and the planning and all that. But so this is a better one to talk about. This is in Meridian. This was a 4-hour hearing. I was in front of the mayor on this one, and it was hard because there was 3 different zones. You had to have 3 different product types based on the zoning. So we did apartments, multifamily, commercial, and single family. So how we integrated those, it also had a floodway on that lower left corner and a drain that went through half of the site. And it sat on the market for 12 years, going in and out of contract. And then a realtor I was working with approached the owner and said, hey, let us take a shot at this and see if we can make something happen. And it really just takes digging into projects at the end of the day. So my advice is tie up a project with a due diligence period as long as you can get, and then see if there's gold under the rocks, right? That's really the only way to go about it. This is another project we're working on right now, a 250 unit affordable housing project. I'm showing this, it's a 3/4 block project, but I'm showing the lower part because you need to know the numbers, and you need to go through these preliminary massing to know how much gross rentable area do you have, how much corridor area do you have, how much parking area do you have, because those all have different costs per foot to build, so you need to dial that in on your pro forma. This is just showing kind of the examples of those. So it's a podium building. This is what you can expect in like a feasibility study, a massing study. We're stepping down on the north side because it joins a single family neighborhood there. So we're planning for the fight that's going to happen there. And maybe I shouldn't think like that, right? the conversation that's going to happen there. And so how do you mask that early on? These are just some high-level preliminary renderings of what that's kind of looking like. This is an active project. We're in design, so there's a lot of stuff that we're working on, retail on the ground floor. Senior housing, 40-unit affordable project in Nampa. Again, I'll just kind of blow through these. 22-unit infill in Garden City. This is a 5-unit, 3-story infill on one lot in like 27th Street in Bannock area. So it's a pretty tight site, 5 units on one lot. Very dense, but we're in permitting. We're almost wrapped up on permitting right now on that. And we also do existing buildings. So this is a 60 unit existing building in Coeur d'Alene, a client of ours, 2 30 unit buildings, bunch of water damage, a whole bunch of issues. They brought us in, renovated it, and it just finished up here recently. So that's the existing in red brick, and then painted it white, got it looking a little more modern and nice. So this one we'll dig into a little bit more. This is a lot in Boise, corner lot, so existing homes on it. And this was like how it starts, right? I think this was my first, I was just going back through the plots that we had done. Big picture, what are our setbacks? What's our buildable area? What's the concept? We're starting to play with like, how does this site lay out? Can we do 4 lots here, and 2 lots per each? Turns out you can't in this zone. It was just too tight, right? So we're doing 2 lots with 2 units per lot, so a duplex. Interesting thing in the zoning code, you need 7 feet between your driveways on a duplex. So here we had mirrored it, right? You had the unit mirrored it over. Well, that didn't really work with the 7 feet because then you end up with this weird gap of storage and a larger garage, right? So we just copied it instead, right? So this has better articulation on the facade. It solves that 7-foot issue. We had to go to a 2-car garage on the in units and a 1-car in the middle to make the linear length work in a functional unit. And then this is the finished product. We're submitting this week to the city for an entitlement package. So that's just kind of the process of how that looks sometimes. Now let's talk about ways to make money in land, whether you're doing development or flipping land. Land flipping, so you can buy low, sell high, and sell on a note, seller financing. That's how I got started in desert properties, which we'll talk about in a minute. Lot splitting, right? Buy the lot, split it off, and sell it. Create value that way. Reduce risk for buyers and paint the picture. If you have a lot and you do the due diligence, dig the septic test, get it surveyed, and take away their objections so you can command a higher price and you can paint the picture and take the risk out of it for them, right? Rezone for higher density, obviously, and that, the value add entitlements there. Pre-plat sale, so get entitled, sell it, paper. Final plat sale, you're going to put the horizontal in, get it vertical ready, sell it to a builder, or build it out and sell it retail, or hold it and rent it, build and hold. So this is how I got started. Cody Stone, shout out to him. He's not here tonight, but I was at a conference in 2018, knew I wanted to focus on land, and we had a conversation in La Jolla, and he was like, hey, have you checked out the Land Geek? Because those guys flip desert land. So I started down that path. And we started buying property for, $1,200, $1,500, sell it for $5,000 on a note for $200 a month, that type of thing. And did quite a bit of that. Ultimately, there's no value add is what I can offer, and it's not in the development space. So we moved that same model more urban. So this is a property we did in Caldwell off of Ustick, so the 1-acre parcel. And all we did is paint the picture. So I had it under contract. We just did a site plan that showed you could do 8 units. We thought we could do 12. And then marketed it on that. And then a builder came in and we bought it for $85,000. A builder came in $150,000 with our lender at closing and then paid us the difference. And I never closed on the property or did anything, right? So, it was a great deal that was super quick, had very low risk, but I painted the picture. I had the pre-app with the meeting. I, took the risk out of the buyer for them, for that builder. Here's another example of some Cascade lots that we bought and sold. Same thing, took out the risk, did the renderings to show what that could look like, did the septic test pits to show that, hey, yeah, septic is approved here. And that, again, took out the risk so we could command a higher price. So bought it at $50K an acre, sold it at $100K an acre. And it was a much easier sale when these are sitting on the market for months, because buyers don't know if they can make it happen. These are another ones at outskirts of Nampa. This whole area in Brown was all illegally subdivided, and turns out that the county didn't know much about it, so we forced them to do, not forced, but asked, because they said, hey, we researched it 2 years ago, do you just want that report? We said, no, do it again. Come to find out, each quarter of this area is eligible for 4 building permits on a first come, first served basis, and you have to ask for it. Nobody knew that. So we ended up buying the whole thing, did a 48-hour loan, sold property A at the same time of closing, put $70K into it to own the other free and clear, got an easement to the back, and then had that ability to keep it ag land, but you could put a residential home on it now. And so that had a huge value increase, and then sold that to a retail buyer, and they built a home and moved on. So there's a lot of hair on that deal that I don't have time to get into, and it was a nightmare for a while, but we got it figured out. This one is a client's property. If you're looking for a fourplex site, this is for sale coming up soon, potentially. So talk to me after if you're interested. But here's a home flip, lot split, rezone, and then build or sell, right? So our client flipped this home. We're going through the splitting off of the home now, and then we're going to move forward with the rezone of that larger parcel, through the city. So he has the time to do it. He's made whole on his flip and everything. And then he's either going to choose to sell that lot as a fourplex lot or build it out. So we're kind of, if you're interested, give me a call, let me know.
Is that in downtown Boise?
Yeah, it's Old Town. It's a good area. They just put new sewer and water in the street on Idaho Avenue over there. It's a really good area. This is a partnership that we're in right now with a landowner. So this is assisted living and memory care with vacant 2 acres. And we introduced to this guy, and he had a bunch of land, and so we decided to focus on this one and became equity partners with him. And originally, again, that process, we started looking at townhomes. Okay, well, do townhomes make sense? Yeah, well, pro forma, okay, not great. And then we looked at what if we do a hybrid? If we do an apartment build and then townhomes, so we sell the townhomes, keep the apartments, and a build and hold, right? Pay down the debt to hold the apartments long term. Ultimately ended up on this where we're doing a phase 1 on the left, which will be a apartment building that will condo out and then sell, and then use that equity to build the 27 unit. So that's a 19 unit condo and then a 27 unit apartment building on the right. So we're, that's about half the equity that we need for that. It was tuck under parking, level 2-3 stories on top there. And so this, not to really get in the numbers and everything, this isn't a pro forma thing. This is just a data sheet of your project. So the far right there, you can see apartment building 3-story, and the next to that condo building 3-story. This is where we're breaking out, what's the net living area? What's the garage area? What's the corridor area? What's the amenity area? And those all have different cost per foot values to really articulate that pro forma and understand, what's the true number here that we need to build. Here's what that looks like at a high level. I mean, we don't have much time to get into pro formas, but at the end of the day, phase 1 is about an $8 million project, 2.8 in equity at a 65% loan to value. We can most likely get a 70%, and we underwrote this at 8.5% interest. And so that's really going to be like a 6.5% after talking with a lot of lenders, maybe 7. But at the end of the day, the net sales of the condo should be 1.3, which will pay down half of our equity for the 27 unit. And so we need a $1 million raise to make that happen. In the upper right, there's, you can see there, we're being worst case conservative and aggressive. So we build at 185 a foot, what does that look like? If we build at 150 a foot, and if we're super aggressive at 110, which I don't think you could even do that, but maybe Zach could, I don't know. But, and then site work, that's not site cost. Site cost, we're doing $12 a foot times the whole site, so we're really in that 190, total build cost per foot when you include the site. And then same with rents, right? If we, from your comps, if rents are $190 a foot or $238 a foot or $167 a foot, how does that affect the pro forma, and how can you sensitivity test, right? On how, if rates go up or go down. So in ways to fail, I mean, really at the end of the day, it's lack of project management and lack of oversight and lack of experience. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. In inadequate feasibility, I think a lot of times people get really excited about a project and they go forward, and then they end up kind of stuck. We call it pregnant, because you've spent a ton of money on something and now you're there. And my old boss used to call it that, so that's stuck in my mind. But yeah, at the end of the day, you spent all this money, now you have a project that doesn't pencil, and now what? You don't want to go spend more money to revise it, and that there's a lot of people in that place. There's a lot of paper lots that are on the market that are listed right now that aren't moving because they're over-designed, they're too big, they're just not, they didn't do that initial feasibility study. So I'll kind of hurry up and go through these, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can mitigate risk by doing the proper feasibility study timeline and going through that systematic process. So quickly, we'll talk about good sites and bad sites. If you're looking at sites and you're out there, hey, would this be a good site to develop? Corner sites are typically really tough. I mean, especially with that diagonal like this that's coming through on that side. I mean, you're gonna have big offsets on Central Drive and big offsets on Locust Grove. And if you're using a commercial user, if you're trying to sell to a commercial user, access is really huge. They want how many vehicles can turn in there. Can you turn left if you're headed westbound on Central Drive right there? Can you get a left turn into a Starbucks, for example, or a gas station or whatever it might be that you're trying to develop? And then single family, you don't really want to live on a corner. Most people, that's not really the right place that you're going to pay top dollar for if you're developing a place like that. This one's kind of a no-brainer of a bad site. It's so thin that an offset there, you really don't have any more buildable space. And these were just parcels I was flying around finding. I wasn't really looking for anything specific, just kind of, oh yeah, this one looks good or bad. This one was on the market. A realtor brought this to me like 3 days ago, and I was like, well, you can't get access to it. And in the listing, it's like development potential and all this stuff. It's like, well, how do you get there?
Tear down the house.
Yeah. Well, and we've done that. We've done projects where we've taken down a portion of the house and done a 20-foot lane and all that, but now you're increasing cost, your rental capacity goes down, your rehab of that house is going up. So there's just a lot of, that just is more barriers than are really worth it. I would just move on to a different project. So, don't try to put a square peg in a round hole. Another thing is, contiguous to the current city boundary. So that purple line or pink line in the upper right of that is in the city, lower left is not in the city. Now, you can connect to city sewer if you have one lot on there. We were looking at a deal we made an offer on like last week, and it had 2 lots, and you could connect 2 sewer hookups. But if you split it, you can't connect any of the future lots or the new lots to the sewer system. So that's the deal until you annex, and then you annex and rezone. So be cautious about that if you're looking at lots that are in the county that aren't contiguous. Even if it was the corner, this the corner to corner touch, that counts. So just be aware of that. Now looking at good sites, so something like this, right? You're right on the border. It's got it's definitely annexable. It's got if you look at comparable lot sizes to the right and north of that, it looks like you could easily probably parcel off that existing home and sell that off and then have a nice square, easy to design parcel, or at least give you more design flexibility along there. Also, the short side is on Locust Grove there, and you can see some detached sidewalk, right? So I was working on a project where it had, 1,300 linear feet, and then it came back, 50 feet, right? That 1,300 linear feet is road, frontage improvements that you're gonna have to make on your project. And those are big ticket items that aren't going to the bottom dollar to build a structure that you can rent. So it really that's what blows up a pro forma a lot of times, is all those site costs and everything. This was another one that, why I like this one was, you have, clearly there's 2 different uses. You can, as you look at it, right? Somebody's farming one, and I don't know what they're doing with the other, so there's some potential there. There's a natural boundary between them with that canal or irrigation ditch, and there's 2 access points. You have an access point on the north, and you have an access point off of Amity, so you can avoid cul-de-sacs and fire turnarounds, and and a lot of times if you're over a certain amount of units, like 150 units, or it totally depends on the jurisdiction and what use, but you're forced to have 2 access points, and they have to be separated by a certain distance. So, I have a project that was 300 units, and now it's 200 because of that very reason, because we can't get a second access point. So that's where, the land or the value in the entitlements can really take a hit just on something like that. So be cautious on, what you're looking into. Really, oh yeah. Is that your property?
No. Close to a school, I was in a meeting with council in Nampa a couple of months ago, working on a project that got approved, but they said if they're close to a school, they value density more. Is that something that you've experienced?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so yeah, because there for a couple of reasons. And from a marketing standpoint, the market that wants to buy that, right? You want your kid to be able to walk to school. So that on the sales side, that's obviously, and then they want, they're trying to reduce traffic too, right? Morning traffic can be chaotic, right? So if you have denser homes over there, you're cutting down on those lines of cars waiting to pick up their kids, or, you're cutting down on the buses that are needed to take those kids. So from the taxation side of things, it's saving the city money on, those fees and everything. So yeah, absolutely. I forgot to mention that, yeah, right next to a school. So that's another reason it's a good one. We should go look at this project though. See. So I know we're getting tight on time, but to kind of wrap this section up, the architect and land planner is essentially the quarterback of your team that's quarterbacking with the civil design, the landscape design, because the plan that they're putting together is what the civil goes off of, right? That's how, and so the strategy, as you come up and mastermind that plan, that's how to kind of look at those people on your team. Surveyor is essential, getting a survey and make sure it has these things at a bare minimum. Because you need to know what's your topography, so you can do a preliminary grading plan and a final grading plan, and cut and fill analysis on how much dirt you have to move or bring in. Civil engineer, landscape architect, and environmental consultant, are all critical members of an entitlement project. And then geotech engineers, they're going to take soil samples of the dirt, send it to a lab, and what's the bearing capacity, what's the percolation rate of that, and knowing that the civil engineer can design to the exact versus design to the maximum, and that's going to save you land on how much land you have to allocate for stormwater retention. So those are all critical things to do, and you're going to need it anyways if you're going to buy it and close it and go build it. So in partnerships and stuff, what we're typically doing is we're making the seller pay for all that because we're not on the deed, so it improves their value. So if you are talking to sellers, that's how we explain to them that that's improving your property, so you should pay for that, not us. Traffic studies, those are also critical. 70 units or more, you typically need a traffic study, and those are around 12 grand. So they're not cheap. But you typically don't need that if you don't have that unit density. And then a general contractor, someone like Zach that can tell you if you're crazy on your cost assumptions and then iterate from there, right? Like revise and put in different numbers, and if it doesn't work, find a new project.
Yeah, so jumping back into like where you actually go to start construction. So once you go through the entitlement process, you have a shovel-ready project. So fully entitled means it's shovel ready. You can put the shovel in the ground tomorrow. Sometimes I see marketing where realtors are like, oh, it's shovel ready, but they don't have stamped plans, and that's not shovel ready. Shovel ready means you can put the shovel in the ground. So be careful when you're looking at that too. Like if you're looking at approved lots, there's a difference between approved, like city council said, okay, yeah, you can do this, but then there's another additional process of like actually getting those civil engineering plans stamped and approved and ready to build. So that's where I come back in. So we go horizontal, and what does that cost? So like when we do the analysis on what it's going to cost, so there's hard costs. So you have your water and sewer service. Those can be main or service lines depending on the project. Roads, sidewalks, drainage, irrigation, street lights, fire hydrants, landscaping, joint trench, that's gas, power, cable, and internet. And then there's other things also like signs, electric car charging is a big one that cities like to throw in there now. And then your soft costs. So porta potties you always have to have on site, your property taxes during this period, your inspection fees, your interest costs, your site landscape maintenance, and then site survey fees. So every time you go to do construction work, the surveyor has to come back out and they have to put in stakes where the road's going to go or the sidewalks are going to go. They have to put elevations in, all that kind of stuff. So those are all fees that go in there. So when you're first looking at a development deal, so there's common pitfalls on your first development deal, and I see this all the time. Will can attest to this. So underestimating timelines and the costs associated. So like, and I made this mistake my very first development deal. I was like, I looked at the whole list of everything I needed to do, and I was like, I can get that done in 4 months. Little did I know, like all the back and forth with the city, and you talk to 8 different people that tell you 8 different things, and they change the rules as you go. And 12 months later, you finally have an approved project. So basically, plan on 12 months to get an approved project, and then from there on the development side. Again, 4 to 6 months for construction, but then you have to get your plat approved, and that's a lot of times another 6 months. So underestimating horizontal infrastructure that will be required. So I've had, even in the last couple of years, a bunch of people that have brought deals to me saying, hey, I got this deal, do you want to buy it? And they underestimated, we have to put sidewalks in. Like, yeah, the city is going to require that you put sidewalks in on almost any project. Most of the time, even if you have sidewalks on the project already, they're going to make you tear them out and do a landscape buffer with the new sidewalk. So you have to actually tear out the existing sidewalk and put in a new sidewalk. And then not understanding how much things cost. And this can go both ways. I've seen projects out there with pro formas that have the development work, and I'm like, I could literally do that for half the cost. And that's why the pro forma doesn't work a lot of times. And then you also might not be budgeting enough. Again, like when it comes back down to like the sidewalks or not planning for an alley pavement, you might not be budgeting everything that the city's going to require you to do. And that's where it comes in handy to like actually talk to somebody that's gone through the development process, and talk to Andrew, and he'll be able to tell you even and say, yeah, the city's most likely going to require that you put all this stuff in before you ever even close on the deal. Not accounting for all your holding costs. So again, like, if you're using borrowed money, make sure you're planning for plenty of time. Plan for, you're gonna have to make your property tax payments in there. You're gonna have to pay for your maintenance in there. And then the biggest one, I think, is, paying too much for unentitled land. Again, I see deals out there, not even deals. I see projects out on the market that are approved, they're shovel ready, but they cost 20% more than the next closest comp, and the seller is going to lose money on that deal. And that's really just because they didn't do their pro forma from the beginning. They didn't realize their costs. They spent too much on it at the very beginning. We use forced appreciation in land development. So you really want to be buying for, like, it's just like flipping houses or buying rentals. You really make your money at the purchase. So you have to really make sure you're not overpaying for the land at the front end of it. And really, like, if you're just starting out on doing a lot split, like on this house that Michelle bought, like, we're in it for zero cost before we pay anybody to start doing work. And like, really, if you're starting your first deal, that's what you should be looking for, is a deal that you can split the lot off and you're in it for zero cost. You're not paying an extra $100,000 for that lot. You're paying $0. You pay $20,000 to get it entitled, and then you sell it for $100,000 and make $80,000, or maybe a little bit more depending on where you're at. But really, like, if you're doing lot splits, like, you should be looking for land that you're not paying extra for the land. And then just not taking action. Like, if you guys are that are starting out, have been to a number of these meetings, come up with an action plan and actually take action. It's one thing I actually really appreciate about Michelle, like when she was nervous about buying a house, she like literally like took action. She like, and she does that every day too. Like every time someone comes across, she invests in other deals too. And she's all about taking action if it makes sense. And that's what makes successful real estate investors. Like, you have to obviously learn and roll with the punches as you go, but you just got to take action. So this is just some pictures of development deals. That top one, the left and right, is my very first development deal. So that was the one I bought in 2019. I did the development site work in 2020. And then the bottom one is a Garden City project that we're under construction, or actually kind of finishing up on the first couple houses. Then we have a couple more lots. And then getting ready to build vertical. So your hard cost obviously is like all the stuff going vertical, but there is also additional costs sometimes that you don't, and some builders don't even quote for like the stuff that goes into building vertically. And that's like your water and sewer connections, your driveways and walkways, your landscaping. Most builders obviously are going to quote from the foundation up, but that includes foundation framing, your rough in phases, drywall, finishes, fixtures. And then again, factoring in your soft costs that you might not expect. So porta potties, property taxes, inspection and other fees, interest costs, site landscape maintenance, and utilities. And on the vertical, I put 12 months here. Typically, it only takes like 6 or 7 months to build a house, sometimes 8 or 9. But you have to factor in the time it takes to get it on the market and sell it or refinance it, whatever you're doing. And then some of the most common pitfalls in new construction is over or under building for the neighborhood. I'm definitely guilty of this. And it's not the end of the world. You just might have too nice of a house for the neighborhood, or not a nice enough house for the neighborhood. I've seen development projects where you have CBH quality houses that they're asking $1 million because they're across the street from actual $1 million houses, and they're not going to get $1 million. They're going to sell for $750,000. So if you underbuild, but you're trying to sell it for the same price as those really nice homes, that's also you have to make sure you know your comps and what you're building to. Not having enough contingency budget for overruns, hiring the wrong subs, or not having enough backup subcontractors. Sometimes some contractors get busy. Like during the pandemic, it was crazy. I actually probably lost $200,000 just because I waited on a contractor too long. Not accounting for additional site work on build-ready lots. So again, like if you have a property that says it's build ready, You have permits for the vertical, you still have to do the landscaping, paving alleys sometimes, sidewalks, or not having an interior design plan and sticking to it. Like when you build something vertical, like as soon as you break ground, you don't want to make very many decisions after that. So the biggest holdup, especially in custom builds, customers are wanting to make decisions at every step of the way, and it just delays and delays and delays, adds cost. So like if you're building a house to sell it, you want to make all those decisions up front, and you put that all out for the contractors, and then it's easy and smooth. Everybody has a plan and they build to it. Not having a thorough estimate from the builder, or self-performing or hiring your own subcontractor. I used to let customers pick their own, or they're like, oh, I got a buddy that'll do this for less expensive. Sure, that's great. Now you just delayed me 3 months because he doesn't work with everybody else the same way. So, and they ended up paying 3 months of interest payments. They ended up paying double the cost of what they would have paid in the first place. So, yeah, so that's it. These are some of my finished projects here recently. That bottom right one is my very first subdivision that we finished up, and then kind of the two middle on the side. The one right in the middle is that one in Garden City that we built that custom build at the front. And then the green one in the upper left is one of the first finished house on that lot. And then I have a couple others. We built the top middle is a ADU that we built, or a garage addition with an ADU above, and even a house addition on that one that we did for somebody else. And then I have a couple in the upper right on Gorley Street on the Boise Bench. And then just some of the interior finishes that we did. And now what? So where do you start? So the first thing is identifying the property or the opportunity. So get it set up on a search. So if you have a realtor, again, reach out to your realtor, tell them what you're looking for. If you don't have a realtor, reach out to my team. We can help you set you up. If you are a realtor, figure out how to set your clients up on these searches if they're interested in these deals. Get your finances and lending in order. Not all lenders are the same. A lot of them don't know how to deal with new construction. So if you need a lender that can help with land development or new construction, again, reach out to my team and we can put you in touch with our. Yeah, yes, you're right. Yes, we do. Thank you for that plug, I should. Opportunities for capital partners. So if you want to be more passive in investments, like I partner with people. If you're bringing the capital, we have deals that you can partner with. We also do we have private money lenders that lend on our deals. And then due diligence, again, so there's nuances to land that you want to navigate a little bit differently than your traditional home buying. So a lot of regular houses, you have a 5-day inspection period. Land is typically 30 days minimum. But really there's a lot of nuances to that again, reach out to a realtor that has some kind of experience in land that can kind of navigate that with you.
Yeah. And then step 2 on the feasibility study. As you're talking to sellers, let them know that you're dealing with a professional company to help you do this, whether it's us or anybody else. But at the very least, you instill confidence in your seller, because what they're afraid of is that they're going to tie it up for 9 months or whatever timeline, and then you're going to bail on the deal and be out of it. So, you can act like we're part of your team, or you can build your own team, but just make sure you instill that confidence and that you're going to go through this feasibility study, systematic process to understand, does this work for you and your team, and a win-win for the seller as well. Then on step 3, if it does make sense, that's the entitlement package portion. So move forward with assembling your design team, civil, surveyor, landscape, architect, land planner, and put that package together and submit that to the city. And then really that's the selling of the project, right? And at that point you could exit, you could sell pre-plat, or you could go to step 4 and you could do the horizontal construction, build the roads, the pipes, get with Zach on how to do that, the cost of that, and his team can help you do that. And you could sell finished lots at that point, or move forward onto step 5.
Yeah, so that's the horizontal infrastructure and development. So we put in all the infrastructure, and then you go through the final plat recording. Again, the construction basically takes 4 to 6 months typically, and then that final plat recording sometimes can take another 6. And then you're build ready, and then you can sell those as finished lots to builders, or you can keep some and build some, whatever you want to do. And then you go to vertical construction. So we basically help with the horizontal and the vertical. And when I buy properties, I buy them at any phase. Like I really like raw unentitled land because there's just so much opportunity. To me, it's less risky. A lot of lenders out there, a lot of investors out there think it's risky. To me, it's like value add all along the way. So like if you know what you're doing and know the pitfalls to look for, to me, it's like there's just so much value added every step of the way. You're pretty much like, pretty much doubling your value at every step. So to me, it's great opportunity, but there's also like builders out there that they just want build ready lots. They just want to build those houses. They're going to mass produce, 50 houses at a time, and they're comfortable with a little bit less margin, and they're okay with buying a finished lot that they don't have as much margin as like what I have on from my development from bare land.
And so on our website, if you go to that, you can download our free due diligence checklist. It's a 10-step deal that just walks you through that process, and it just can act as a simple guide to help you through that.
All right. So if you guys want to stay in touch with us, so scan my QR code. Like that's going to just go to my link tree that has my social media stuff. Follow me on social media. If you guys have a project that you're already looking at that you want some like help with, if it's not necessarily a feasibility study, but like, hey, can we do this, or what can we do with this? I can look at something literally, and I can look at a piece of land in 5 minutes and tell you what you can do with it, most likely. And then the other thing too is if you guys are wanting to look at buying one of these projects or investing or whatever, just reach out to me. We'll kind of take you step by step from there. You can schedule a meeting with me, and we'll kind of figure out where you're at, how we can help you, and figure out how to help you guys achieve your goals.
Yeah, and likewise, if you scan that, it'll take you to download the due diligence guide, schedule a 30-minute call, and we can hop on a call and talk about your project. Or if you don't have a project but you're thinking about doing a project, we can hop on the call and look at where you're looking, why, what you're looking for, and help try to steer you in the right direction and add value to whatever you're doing in development. So thanks everyone for all your attention. Questions?
Yeah, we'll take a
We went a little over,
but
but
their business cards are back on the table too. If you want to grab a card for either of these guys or both of them when you walk out, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
So, any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Andy.
The project you talked about, you said was coming up soon, the fourplex lot.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, like what would you charge for something like that for someone?
like a feasibility study type of thing. I mean, on the low end we're $5,000. On the high end we're 15. Depending on whatever the project is. 5 to 20, right? I mean, in that range. If it's a 100-unit multifamily and all that, or if it's I'm splitting off this lot and building a duplex. So it's really that's the range about for that initial.
It could be sold. It's marketable as a fourplex lot.
Well, that's the feasibility study to get the schematic plans put together and then meet with the city, do a pro forma, work with someone like Zach to make sure the costs are aligned. And then you have at that point, that's that go, no go decision. And so, the whole thing, if anyone listens to Jocko, right, he's so much about like take baby steps and look around and take another step. So that's what we try to do in our own deals and what we advocate for clients to do. Just take a step, spend a little bit of money with us to get clarity. And then if it makes sense, spend a little more and then a little, just inch forward on it. So that's why I preach the feasibility study so much, because it just gives you clarity on the design concept, who's on the team, what are we trying to do here, and is it feasible? So.
Rather spend $5,000 to see if something's feasible than to close on it and lose $100,000.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Any other questions?
You're saying that you're having a seller provide you the geotech logs. Is that typical how you're doing it?
Yeah. So to pay for it, Yeah. So like
You'll have them pay.
Yeah, so in the negotiation this morning with this seller, it's like, hey, we're not on the deed, and so if this partnership blows up and we go away, I'm not going to be out 15, 20 grand on a survey and geotech and environmental. And they understood that. They're like, yeah, and then it benefits them and they can move forward. So
you can prescribe like where you're going to drill. If they're okay with it, you can come to the terms. You can say, okay, drill here, here, and here based on it.
And you would do that after the feasibility study, so you'd already have a site plan. So you would drill where the footings are going to go and the footprints for the bearing capacity, and as well as where your retention stormwater basin is, to understand the perk rates there. So you kind of, navigate the geotech engineer where to drill, and then how many boring samples they take and that type of stuff. Yeah.
Do you provide guidance on unforeseen conditions after you come up with that information? Like, do you hit a point where you're like, okay, this is too sketchy for me, or you might think that? How do you counsel from that point moving forward?
I guess the same methodology of let's learn a little more. Like, is there a way we can get more information and take a step and gain more intel, to make a better decision? And then at the end of the day, and what's the risk? Like, how far along are you, right? That's why are you $5,000 into it, or did you close? And so that's really, I think, what's going to dictate how aggressive you are on the risk side. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I think partnerships work great, because if you have a seller that they want top dollar, which most do, right? If they have the time, then you can vet all those things out without having this contract close date that's looming, and you're raising the funds while you're designing everything, and you're stressing out over that, right? And you can take the time to figure those things out. But
when it comes to like splitting off like a single family home lot, how often are cities allowing, or how often does it make sense to put in like duplexes and triplexes into single family neighborhoods?
you want to take this one?
So Boise loves it. They'll let you put a duplex or triplex on anything. Well, duplex for sure. Triplex, there's other rules, but Boise loves it. Garden City, most of the zoning is higher density, so you can do that. So a lot of it is the zoning, but Boise and Garden City especially. I think Meridian, there's probably a lot of opportunity there. It really just depends. Actually, in all the cities, all the cities are really they want higher density. So as long as it meets the zoning code, the one thing you don't want to do is go into something saying, okay, I'm going to get this rezoned so I can put a duplex there. Or build 8 houses on this lot that's only zoned for 4. You can do that, it's more advanced, but you shouldn't be paying extra to do that. You should be doing it because it's increasing the value even more. So, but cities they love duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, and
But on the lot split side, the affordability deal.
Yeah. So on the Boise City, if you want to do anything more than a duplex, they're going to make you go into either a longer process, or they're going to make you do the affordability, which they put a deed restriction on your land for 20 years that half of the units have to be affordable to 80% of the income. So when Michelle and I analyzed that, it just doesn't make sense from a building standpoint. You can't, you're going to lose money you'll actually lose money for 15 years. As the builder and developer. So it's unfortunately the intention was good, but it doesn't work. The green energy is a possibility, because really you have to meet their silver LEED requirements to build higher density, and really as a builder I'm already pretty much right there. There's some extra costs involved with it, but it's basically extra fees to be able to add another unit or two that end up penciling a lot of times.
And I was going to say,
One more question.
on that fourplex, that's a subdivision plat that we're doing to do those two. It's not a minor land division, because that would trigger that. So yeah, we're going through a whole subdivision plat for 2 lots at the end of the day.
So on Michelle's deal, if an individual investor was doing that exact deal, didn't have the low down payment for the VA, and wasn't partnering with you, how much equity would they need to do that deal?
So you could still buy that house with you as on a traditional lender or a loan with 20% down as an investment property. It just take more money out of pocket, right? So you'd have to put 20% down, so that's 120 grand out of pocket, and then you're carrying a $480,000 note. And I don't know what the numbers look like on that, if that cash flows or not. But if if it's close to breaking even at that point, or you put enough money down so that it just takes a little bit more cash in the deal to do that. But it still works out if you're going to go buy a house anyway as a rental, and you want to look at it as adding income to one property.
Yeah, so my question isn't just to buy that house and make money off the house, because the project is you're going to split off the lot and you're going to put the triplex, I think, in
Yep.
EDU. So if you wanted to be able to build all of that, you want to be able to do the whole thing, about how much equity we want.
So you'd have to do your, say, 20% down on the original purchase. You're going to split the lot. You're going to be in that lot for basically $0. I know construction lenders that'll lend with no money, no extra money out of pocket. They'll even carry the interest on that. You can do that all day for no extra money out of pocket. You do want to have cash to be able to, like, because construction is very cash heavy. So you can get construction loans, but those typically reimburse you. So you have to spend, 50 grand a month to do that first. But so you want to have like some extra cash there, but you could probably be in that deal for 120 grand out of pocket, plus some liquidity there to help you out.
And that's like 50% of the land value, right? That's what
Yeah.
that's what the bank will see, like
Yeah.
half the land
It's not a
value.
needle in a haystack deal. You can do deals like
There's-
that all the time.
Yeah, Michelle and I were talking about this earlier. Like I see like probably a deal every week or two where I can't do it because it's either like, so like this deal I wouldn't do on my own because it's like my resources, like I do, medium-sized developments. I do like, I have a couple of 10 and 20 unit townhome projects. I have some other, bigger projects and single lots, but like it doesn't necessarily make sense for me, but like an investor, if they want to add units as rentals, like there's projects out there right now that you can do that with 100%. And if they're not right now, there'll be one in a week. There's literally every week or every 2 weeks I see a deal that you can do the same thing with.
And Caldwell is amending their comp plan January 23rd of 2025 to adopt the new comp plan, which is going to be a similar thing what happened to Boise and shake up the zoning stuff. Yeah, we're kind of bullish in Caldwell right now. Or we're doing a lot of marketing anyways to find deals in there. So just so everyone knows, but there's enough deals out there for everyone. So we're not trying to keep it a secret. Never.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. We have a room deadline exit, so that's why I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
rush
No,
you
you're good.
all.
We went way over time.
No,
So,
but this was so good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks. That's sick. Yeah.
And I'm sure you're around to answer questions when we break in a few
Oh, yeah.
minutes. So, I mean, they're just open books. As you said, I love that Caldwell tip. I had no idea, but those are the little things you pick up on. And, people think there's no opportunities in Boise, but then you just, the game's the same, just the way we play it's a little bit different depending on where the market is. So I love how they're taking advantage of the opportunity. I learned a lot tonight, so thank you so much.